From Silicon Valley to the streets of San Francisco, the Bay Area was now awash with ambitious techies, pursuing every conceivable web-related opportunity, tackling every conceivable web-related problem. Right? No. In fact, the biggest opportunity was still out there, staring the search companies squarely in the face, or they were too blinded by their own success to see it. The problem was, to put it bluntly, that when it came to actually locating relevant information on the web, Yahoo, Excite, and the rest of the so-called search companies, frankly, stunk. You could spend all day typing in various combinations of words to find what you were looking for and still come up empty. Most of the results you'd receive were links to sites trying to sell you something you didn't want. And all too often, smut. In short, the world was hungry for a radically better way of searching the web. Sure enough, it came from the exact same institution that had already produced Yahoo and Excite, Stanford. Once again, the name of the company was unrepentantly goofy. Google, a twist on the word Google, a mathematical term for 10 to the 100th power. And once again, the founders were a pair of barely socialized young geeks, Larry Page and Sergey Brin. The guys first met in the spring of 1996 on a guided tour of San Francisco for prospective graduate students at Stanford. Leading the tour was Sergey, a good-looking Russian-American kid with a bit of an attitude.
I think he was like 19 years old, which is very, very young, one of our youngest PhD students.
Well, I remember him as being pretty curt. He's the kind of person who has very quick answers to things and sort of sees a certain way.
Larry was one of the incoming grad students on the tour that day. The doughy-faced Midwesterner, the son of an academic, his greatest claim to fame to that point was building an inkjet printer out of Legos.
He's a very unassuming guy, very quiet. He's not the kind of person who, when you meet him, you say, whoa. I mean, you meet him and you say, here's a nice guy.
It was nice guy Larry who had the genius insight that turned search into something magical and launched Google. Given the far-reaching consequences of this insight, social, cultural, and certainly financial, you might think that it's incredibly complex. But in fact, in its basic form, it's pretty simple. His insight started with the notion that the web was running a continual popularity contest on its own content, and that the number of times a given web page was linked to by other sites might be a measure of how useful or how relevant it was. Page believed that a link from one website to another is a kind of recommendation, and he and Brin built Google's infant search engine around that conviction. As they put it in a now famous academic paper in 1998, quote, "In essence, Google interprets a link from page A to page B as a vote by page A for page B. Google assesses a page's importance by the votes it receives," end quote. In other words, when a site about, say, Abraham Lincoln has been linked to 15 million times, that means that an awful lot of people have found it useful. Another Lincoln site that's been linked to, say, 11 times has impressed almost no one. Realizing this led Page and Brin to their very own version of the dictate, follow the money. In order to find the most relevant sites, what you had to do was count the links. Larry's insight about link counting was simple but kind of brilliant, and it would eventually be the core of Google's incredible success. But did Larry understand this at the time? Not a chance.